Okay, so I know this is going to be a bit of a weird question to start a TEDx talk on autism, but I'm going to need you to just bear with me here. Just trust me for a second. Okay, so who here has heard of and or studied the French Revolution? Raise your hand. I don't care how much experience you have. You could have heard about it once in a dinner conversation. You could have taken an entire course on it. Just raise your hand. Okay, pretty good. All right, more people than I was expecting. Perfect. Now, with that being said, can anyone tell me who this gentleman is? Yes. Correct. So this is Maximilien Robespierre, as he said. Basically, he was the poster boy of the French Revolution and known most infamously for supposedly, keep that buzzword in mind, supposedly, leading the reign of terror and having tens of thousands of people executed at the hands of the guillotine. However, let me be one of the very few to say that this common picture we paint of him isn't true at all. He fought against slavery and advocated for Jewish rights. He worked to protect the people of France and fought and put his life on the line again and again for his friends. I mean, he loved pigeons and tarts and oranges. Just look at this painting. Does this scream bloodthirsty dictator to you? Yeah, I didn't think so. So you're probably wondering, Sid, how do you know so much about this one random French guy? Well, a year ago, in my world history course, my teacher, Mr. Payne, one of the best teachers I've ever had, put on what I now consider to be a wildly inaccurate documentary on the French Revolution. But the thing is, I didn't know anything about it before this point. That is, until Robespierre walks on screen and starts giving a speech, and my attention is instantly caught. And I have what I like to call a Bazinga Moment. What is a Bazinga Moment? It's that feeling when your brain lights up and goes, yup, this is super interesting. I'm going to spend the next couple years fixating on this one thing and nothing but this thing. So after the documentary ends, I have a yearning to learn more. So I do what any sane person does, and I pour through hours and hours of research on this man, study up on my 18th century men's fashion to create a costume for this man, which I'm absolutely going to wear on Halloween, and write a half-hour-long, 41-page play about the final days of this man, which I am still trying to get produced at the moment. Now, I know what you're thinking after all that. Sid, that's a lot. Trust me, I know. So why do I do this to myself? Well, these obsessions that completely take over my life, like Robespierre, are often known as hyperfixations. But see, I was diagnosed with autism, so in that context, they're known as special interests. And believe it or not, Maxime here was not my very first. Oh no, Abraham Lincoln was my very first. And it lasted me from first grade up until the middle of 6th grade. That is 5 years on this one man. And another interesting one would be Elvis Presley. I actually had a crush on him when I was in 4th grade, but I digress. And another interesting one would be Scrooge McDuck from DuckTales, but I don't want to get in a copyright war with Mickey Mouse over images, so we're just going to move on. Now, as I previously stated, I'm autistic. I was diagnosed with autism when I was 4 years old, and my life hasn't been the same since. Now, there are people who are a lot more qualified to talk about the technicalities of autism than me, but as someone who is on the spectrum, I will keep it straight and to the point. Autism is something that affects your brain and gives you a unique way of seeing the world, completely different from everyone else. Now, at times, these differences can seem really bad. I know a year ago, I was struggling with symptoms of anxiety and depression. It felt like no one understood me and no one ever would. I felt completely alone in the world. And even before that, even in welcoming spaces, there was an underlying feeling as though I wasn't wanted. To quote a wise user from Reddit, autism is like a play where everyone has a script except for you, and you're still expected to know your lines by heart. But with that being said, is autism a completely bad thing? No, of course not. That's not why I'm up here. For me, autism has been one of the greatest things to ever happen to me. I have a hunch that because of my autism, I was given amazing gifts, like perfect pitch and synesthesia, which is the ability to see colors and taste tastes with music. I'd have to say, my greatest gift by far would have to be my photographic memory. It has its pros and cons. Trust me, there is a lot I wish I could forget. But it's been more of a blessing than a curse, which leads us into a little story time. So 4 years ago, I took a babysitting course with the Red Cross because I wanted to be like all the cool kids, you know? And a little over a year ago, I got my job working at the Eden Prairie McDonald's location. Which takes us to December 18th, 2021. I was working in the drive-through lane, handing food out the window, going, "Thank you, have a nice day," and waiting for the cars to drive off as normal. But then, one car shows up, I hand them the food, say, "Thank you, have a nice day," but they don't drive off. I turn to look at the window, and the woman is gagging with her hands on her throat, her eyes wide with fear. She was choking. Now, in that moment, at first, I froze, I panicked, like any reasonable person would. I had no idea what to do. But then, everything came flooding back. I remembered my Red Cross training. I remembered how to do the Heimlich maneuver. I remembered how to properly contact authorities, and I remembered most importantly that in an emergency situation, you have to think fast, because even a second can be the difference between life and death. So I jump out the drive-thru window. It's funny now, but I jumped out the drive-thru window, told my manager to call 911, and I started doing the Heimlich maneuver on the woman. But I don't think I need to say that I'm not the strongest person in the room, so the first couple times it didn't work. And I was so scared she was going to die on my behalf. But this story has a silver lining. Now, we'd parked a man ahead for his food, and he saw what was happening and rushed over asking if he could help. And naturally, I said yes. And together, we were able to dislodge the food, and the woman didn't end up needing any medical attention. So that's happily ever after, right? Nope, it gets even better. The next day, we were contacted by our local news station asking if they could run the story. And of course, my family said yes. But within the next 24 and 48 hours, the story blew up. It went national. No. It went international. In the next couple days, I was doing interviews with the likes of CNN, Fox, and The Today Show. I even took a screenshot just to show you all of the different news sites. Just look at all of these big names. The New York Post, the Daily Mail, even NBC put it on their website. But is that the end of it? No, because a couple days later, I got a call from some producers in New York who wanted me to fly over and film a talk show with Nick Cannon. And I have to say, that was probably the best birthday present of my entire life. But is that the end of it? No! When me and my family were on spring break, we got a call from McDonald's corporate asking if we could go to their worldwide convention in Florida as part of McDonald's Thank You Crew program, where we got to go see some sick concerts, we got to go to the convention, and most importantly, we got to go to Disney World, aka my favorite place on planet Earth. But is even that the end of it? No, because I'm standing in front of you right now giving you all a TEDx talk at the ripe old age of 16 and a half. Thank you. Now, when I was first writing this talk, I showed it to my mom, and she thought it was right and good. But she said, "I feel like we should focus on your autistic experiences more, since you're more than just the incident." Now, going back to when I was first diagnosed with autism in preschool, my teacher had the following things to say about me. "Sydney has no fear, but it cannot be classified as confident. She is more impulsive by nature. She knows rules and routines, but her impulsivity and mobility interfere with her following them independently. Sydney lives for the moment without fear of consequences, which means she is not dependent." Now, at first, these things can seem really hurtful. But really think about it. Living for the moment without fear of consequences, more impulsive by nature, those were the same traits that caused me to jump out of that drive-thru window last December. But even outside of the incident, and even outside of being a person on the spectrum myself, I'm still a human being. I've got my own friends and a job and a boyfriend. I love music and choir and theater, and I will sing any Disney song regardless of if you want to hear it or not. And if you take anything away from my story, I want it to be that people with autism are people just like you and me, with hopes and dreams and goals, and autism does not change that. I also want to get rid of the myth that autism is this deadly disease that will ruin your life and must be cured, because no, that's not true. People on the spectrum are capable of doing amazing things that a lot of neurotypicals can't. Now, The best way I like to describe autism is that it's like a pair of glasses. It's individually tailored to each person to give them a fresh and clear way of seeing the world. And sometimes, people will make fun of your glasses, but they're just jealous because they wish they could see the world that clearly. And, let's see. Who was a historical figure well known for wearing glasses who's actually rumored to be on the autism spectrum himself? That's right, Maximilian Robespierre, baby. Boom, we just came full circle. I hope your minds are blown. And with that being said, I've always wanted to say this. Thank you for coming to my TEDx talk.